What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy. As always, this is your boy Will Weir checking in. How you doing? How you living? Happy Sunday fun day here on Green with Envy. Hope y'all have had a great week and having a great start to your week. As always, joining me today, my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, the one and only Greg Manakis. How you doing, Doc?
What's up, my guy? How are you?
I'm gonna be honest, man. I feel like I'm as much as a podcaster can play through injury. Burnt my tongue this morning, so I feel like this is it's not quite my flu game, but I had I'll be honest, man. I'm trying to think of the best. It was honestly just a doofus moment, just a real
Tell
doofus
me about
moment. So shout out to my Nespresso gang out there. Big fan of the Nespresso for your coffee in the morning, for your coffee needs. And went to go fill up my Nespresso, was getting ready to make a little breakfast for me and the lady, just do a little scrambled eggs, a little toast, some sausage, just, a little quick thing. So, we've talked about before in the kitchen, I'm kind of a one focus type of guy. Usually, it's like, all right, I can make the chicken, but the sides got to be somebody else got to take care of that,
Mm-hmm.
like, unless I'm just doing rice and I can kind of just set it up, that can do its own thing. And then it's good. You know what I mean? Something like that. But when I'm trying to like maneuver multiple things, sometimes the brain gets a little foggy. So put my coffee on, drop the little pod in, it goes off, it fills it up. And then I go to grab it. And I'm starting to think about all these other stuff that, do I have the egg set up? Do I have whatever else ready? And then for some reason, as if it's not going to be a hot cup of coffee, I just bring it right to my lips and chug it like I'm hydrating with a glass of ice cold water. And immediately it just like all kind of sits on my lips and in my tongue, and I'm like trying to basically put some of it back into the cup. And I'm like, I guess I gotta swallow some of it. And it was just a super idiotic moment this morning for your boy. So not gonna lie, the texture of my tongue is something that I'm noticing every moment I talk. So when you're talking, I'm probably more so gonna be thinking about the way my tongue feels than anything that you're actually saying.
Okay, a couple things here. First thing, I want to compliment your progression as a cook over the years. I feel like you've come a long way since the days of using the Foreman grill at your house, cooking up some burgers.
Long way.
So shout out to you. I trust the food that you cook. Whenever you cook, I'm always like, all right, this is gonna be good.
This is all Lorena's training, by the way. It's 100%. It was the pandemic was boot camp for cooking for me.
Back in the day, I wouldn't have said the same thing about you, but now when I hear you're cooking or you guys are preparing food, I get excited. Versus, I'm like, ooh, should we bring our own thing? You know what I mean? Secondly, when you're talking about mouth injuries, let's talk let's rank them, right? So you got a burnt tongue, burnt roof of the mouth on like a Elio's pizza or Hot Pocket or something like that, or
any type of microwavable and or oven pizza. That's the type that we're talking about.
Yes, absolutely. Where you can like literally peel the skin off the roof of your mouth, or when you accidentally bite that one spot on your lip and then you continue to bite that throughout the week. What is the most inconvenient thing in your opinion?
Oh, it's got to be the lip. I think it's the lip because it lingers, right? It lingers, and at least I don't know if it usually would last a full week, but certainly the next like 2 to 3 days, that spot, and then there's times you keep hitting it, and the thing is, if you forget about it to a certain level, you're just like, it doesn't affect other parts of your day, but like, let's say you go to drink some orange juice or something with like citrus or what I mean, or something spicy and then you're just like, oh shit, I totally forgot. And then you're like, well, I just made this meal or I just poured this glass and it's entirely ruined. Or you have to like, if it's on like the right side of your mouth, you have to like try to like sip just to the left side and like somehow keep that like just all in one side of your mouth. So it gets really difficult. So I think that's the one that, because like I don't anticipate, this burnt tongue, this is gonna be fine. I still ate my egg, sausage, toast. That was fine. You know what I mean? Like you notice it, but you can still go about your day. The lip thing, that lingers with you. It stays with you, and then when you forget about it, it's a tough reminder. It's a tough.
I feel like the tongue regenerates a lot quicker than the lip does or the roof of the mouth does, right? I feel like the burnt tongue, you'll get over that in 24 hours. The burnt roof of the mouth, I feel like that's more 36 to 48, and then the side of the mouth biting your lip, that's probably like a 72 to 96 hour.
I was gonna say these are pretty accurate timetables that we're given here. I was gonna say, is the regeneration of the tongue, is that a real thing, or is that just something that you're surmising?
That's I've come to my surmise that is
Did I use that word correctly?
Shout out Brian Joyce. No, yeah, you did
Okay,
use
okay,
it
cool.
correctly. Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
Like educated guess. Surmise is like educated guess. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're all on the same page here. So the audience knows now what we're working with, but we're true professionals. So we're going to get through this, and we got a fun podcast today. Off-season podcasting, it can be, can be tough to find topics sometimes, but also it allows us to get pretty creative. So on today's show, we're going to bring back, if you've been following Green with Envy, you know that come hell or high water, this man, Greg Maneikis, is going to get the Rookie of the Year belt installed somewhere, someplace. In fact, we are the place that's getting it going here. So we're bringing back the Rookie of the Year belt. If you don't know what we're talking about, we'll set it up. We'll let you know just how it works, and then we will continue to build on that today. And we're also going to dive into the top 5 point guards in the Eastern Conference. Greg and I are going to walk it through. We're going to give you our list of our top 5 Eastern Conference point guards. But all of this was started from, over this past weekend. Team USA, they're getting ready for the FIBA World Cup here coming up in a couple of weeks in August out in the Philippines. And the Team USA select team features Boston Celtic Payton Pritchard. So with Payton Pritchard being on the team, they actually, a little bit of a, there's that famous 92 Dream Team story where the college players beat the actual Dream Team. And then the next day, the real Dream Team shows up and beats them down. So this past weekend, Friday, couple of scrimmages open to the media. Payton Pritchard and the select team put it on the actual varsity Team USA, take them down twice in 2 different scrimmages. The veterans did get their revenge on Saturday, taking them down twice. But as we got some highlights going here, Greg, Payton Pritchard, we talked about, I think it's really cool that he's on this team because I think it shows the respect that he has for his game, across the league, given that the rest of that select team, minus a few G League standouts, are all young guys that are either already getting deals like Naz Reid, guys like Cade Cunningham, Jalen Williams, people expect to be future All-Stars, and Payton Pritchard's in the mix on this team. What'd you take away from some of those highlights that you saw going around the internet?
Well, there are a couple of non-highlights that also made their way in, and then I saw Payton Pritchard severely bricked a 3-pointer.
Did see that. Was going to leave that up. I did see that.
But I think the most salient point is that Pritchard's getting this experience, right? He's coming into a really important year with the departure of Marcus Smart, with Malcolm Brogdon's situation kind of being up in the air right now with, how happy is he being on the Celtics? Do the Celtics want to bring him back, or are we just trying to make things right in the media and really we're still out there shopping him? Payton Pritchard seems like he's going to have a legitimate role, which he's been clamoring for on this team. And I think all Celtics fans would probably say that we at least want to see the kid get a shot, whether or not that's, 20 minutes a game, 25 minutes a game, or just, 10 to 12 minutes a game where he plays every single night. And we know that Payton Pritchard is getting that opportunity. So going up against the other young guys in the league that everybody else considers to be the cream of the crop, people that we will talk about here in the Rookie of the Year belt conversation, I think it's invaluable experience for Payton Pritchard. I'm excited to see more highlights as they continue to trickle out from Team USA training camp. And I'm just really excited to see how this translates from the summertime into Payton Pritchard's actual NBA performance this season, because, a couple, I forget if it was last summer or 2 summers ago. I think it was last summer where Pritchard had that like 90-point pro-am performance and everybody lost their shit. Like, oh my God, Payton Pritchard scored 90 points. Like, does that really matter? What's more valuable experience for Payton Pritchard, scoring 90 points in a pro-am or getting this run with Team
Or getting
USA?
5 points in the Team USA select game. And, you mentioned obviously the low light that came out for Payton Pritchard, but the highlight was him going off the bounce against Jalen Brunson, getting into the lane, fending him off, going up for that layup. And then, a couple of the clips that were talking about the Team USA, the select team, which is basically the JV team, them having a certain level of continuity and being able to move the ball. A lot of those did involve Payton Pritchard. And I think you made a great point about, getting hyped about the Pro-Am a couple of years ago. Like, yeah, that's fun and all. That's cool. But, if Payton Pritchard shows up to our men's league game tomorrow night, I'm pretty sure he's dropping 92 points. Like I'm pretty sure like that's going to happen. It's not that the Pro-Am's at the same level as our men's league, but for a guy who's a professional like Payton Pritchard, like that's child's play. You know what I mean? And especially there's some pro-ams, obviously go to the Drew League and stuff like that with other NBA guys. It's going to be at a different level, but it's just not the same level of going up against your peers, going up. And you mentioned that we're going to talk about some of these guys in the Rookie of the Year belt, Greg. I was actually thinking we're going to talk about a lot of these guys for the top 5 point guards in the Eastern Conference that are in this run right now. So that's another thing that Payton Pritchard is just get those extra reps. And so, when Brogdon's going to need to sit, if Brogdon's injuries come back, Derek White played every game last year. There's no guarantee that's going to happen. He's taken on a bigger workload. Like, there is going to be a role. There is going to be a need for Payton Pritchard. And this experience is, to your point, is going to be so much more valuable than, the pro-am hype. Like, I think just him being out here and him being able to be in this mix, in this Team USA mix, which we always, I think it's Bill Simmons that always talks about kind of the Team USA bump. Right. Mm-hmm. Now it's the select teams, not exactly the Olympics, but, it is still going to be, a truly valuable summer, I think, for Payton Pritchard. And it's going to give him an opportunity to, whether it's going to be with the Celtics long-term or, if he's going to get consistent run next year, give him a chance to really build a name for himself across the league.
Yeah, I mean, you see as we're playing the highlights here for those watching on YouTube, you see some of the guys out here, right? Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, Jaren Jackson Jr. Then you got some of the older guys like Jalen Brunson and I think Bobby Portis is out there.
Yeah, Bobby Portis is out there, which is hilarious. He's the old head in this right now.
Yeah, and then Brandon Ingram, he's one of same draft classes. Jaylen Brown, You got Mikal Bridges out there, so he's getting some great run this summer. Going back to Payton Pritchard, and him versus Austin Reeves is a fun little battle in training camp there. But all the reports on Austin Reeves are sounding pretty good too. So who knows, man? This Team USA bump that we're hoping to get out of Payton Pritchard. Let's see if it actually translates. I'm starting to get excited about actual Boston Celtics training camp, which is still a few months away, but before you know it, that's right.
It'll be here. Yeah, it's all of a sudden we're gonna say it's X amount of time away, and all of a sudden it's gonna be here. But with this, Greg, let's take a quick break and then let's transition into the Rookie of the Year belt, because I know a guy that we're gonna talk about was one of the leaders of that USA Select team, and that's Cade Cunningham, and that's kind of what inspired us to bring this all back. So Rookie of the Year belt coming at you. All right, Greg, this is your time. I don't want to put too much pressure on you, but this is the time of year that you are waiting for. This is the moment you wait for every single year. When is it time to bring back up the Rookie of the Year belt? So for those of you that have been following along with Green with Denby for the last couple of years, you may be familiar with this concept, but for those that aren't, Greg, I'm gonna let you take the floor here and run with this and get us set up here, and then we can dive into it.
Okay, so the general concept of the Rookie of the Year belt, I want to call it more like the Player of the Class belt versus Rookie of the Year belt, because years 2 and year 3 of this hypothetical competition, they would no longer be rookies, right? So we're calling it the Player of the Class belt. It's a 3-year competition with an escalating point system. So the Rookie of the Year, if he wins Rookie of the Year year 1, he will then need to defend his belt. And the players within that draft class, not their quote unquote rookie year, if they miss year 1, are competing. So the points will be increasing from years 2 and years 3 to reward growth. And the example that I always like to point to is the 2016-2017 NBA season. So if you remember, that is the Ben Simmons draft, right? Actually, yeah, that is the Ben Simmons draft, right? So Ben Simmons gets injured and misses his rookie season. And as a result of that, Malcolm Brogdon wins Rookie of the Year, right? Dario Saric finished second in Rookie of the Year voting that year. And
Buddy Hield with a 3rd place finish.
Well, actually, Joel Embiid was the 3rd place finish. But
that's right.
In my system would not be eligible because he was actually drafted 2 years prior. He missed the first 2 seasons of his NBA career. So his rookie season was actually his 3rd year in an NBA organization, which to me is not fair, right? As we saw in 2017, 2018, there was this debate between Donovan Mitchell and Ben Simmons, who was going to win Rookie of the Year. And Donovan Mitchell famously wore a hoodie that had the dictionary definition of the word rookie, right? And the whole back and forth was Ben Simmons really isn't a rookie. Donovan Mitchell is the rookie, right? So that's what always kind of stuck with me. And I just wanted to, over time, kind of flesh out with everybody being so obsessed with NBA redrafts, like we always like 5 years down, let's 5 years from now, we'll go back and redraft the 2023 NBA draft class, right? So because we already do draft class redrafts, why not actually make this a real competition? Hence the player of the class belt, right? So did you feel like I did a good job setting that up?
That was good. That was good. So I was going to say, so let's go through a couple of the years that that have already completed their 3-year journey, just to give examples of what those standings look like. So see if you can try to zoom in on that a little bit, Greg, for those watching on YouTube. There we go. So as you said, you started really with that 2016, 2017 class. And so the final results for those of you listening here would have been Ben Simmons still wins rookie of the year here, wins player of the class here. It would have been the top 3 finishers would have been Ben Simmons, Malcolm Brogdon, followed by a tie with Brandon Ingram and DeJounte Murray. Is that what we're looking at?
Jamal Murray.
Jamal Murray, excuse me, Jamal Murray right there. So Simmons, Brogdon, and then a 2-way tie with Jamal Murray and Brandon Ingram. The following year, 2017, 2018, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, De'Aaron Fox. That year, those couple of years, pretty straightforward. Mitchell ascended a little bit early. Obviously, the fun part is you could kind of do this every couple of years and see how it reassesses, because obviously that might be a little bit different if we looked at it today. 2018-19. And Greg, I want you to jump in on these next two, because these next two feature something that I think for you is almost like this is hallowed ground, right? The guys that sweep for 3 straight years. So talk about these two here a little bit.
Yeah, so going back to like the actual points accumulated over the length of this hypothetical competition, right? Ben, the max that you can get is 25 points, because if you win first place 3 years in a row, you get 5 points year 1, 8 points year 2, 12 points year 3, for a total of 25 points, right? So if you are the player of the class and you earn 25 points, as Will said, that's more hallowed ground than someone who only wins year 3 and they get 12 points, but because of how the voting shook down because of injuries or whatsoever, they won with only 12 points. But if you look at 2016, 2017, which is my example, Ben Simmons would have won with 20 points, because I think most people would have agreed that Ben Simmons year 2 and Ben Simmons year 3 was the best player in that class. For those watching on YouTube, you see Brandon Ingram. I had him second place year 2, and then he doesn't finish year 3 because he was injured for most of that year. So when you think of Luka Doncic in 2018, 2019 draft class, at the end of those 3 years, all 3 years, I think most people would have said that Luka Doncic was the best player in that class. Same thing with 2019, 2020, Ja Morant being the winner of each of those years. But 2019, 2020 is really interesting, right? Because that's Zion, although he only played a handful of games his rookie year, still finished 3rd in the Rookie of the Year voting. And then
real quick, it looks so weird seeing Kendrick Nunn in second place.
That's not me. That's how.
No, I know that's the actual voting. I know. It's just really weird to think back that, man, Kendrick Nunn finished in second place. That's a wild thought.
Right. And that's why this player of the class competition is fun for me, because Kendrick Nunn, if he's second place year 1, you're like, oh, wow, Kendrick Nunn, he's probably going to be a guy. But at the end of the 3-year competition, you see that he doesn't place again. And Kendrick Nunn's basically out of the NBA at this point. So year 2, Ja Morant beats out Zion, in my opinion, partially because of games played, but also Ja was electric year 2. But with Zion coming back, right, in year 2 and earning a second place finish, maybe year 3 he's motivated to be in shape because he knows he's competing with Ja Morant for the player of the class belt. But Zion was pretty much injured all year 3, right? So he didn't even get to compete in that, and Ja ends up sweeping that. But 2020 draft class, 2020, 2021 draft class, their competition would have ended after this season. Right. Yep. So that's kind of where I want to take the conversation now. If you think back to the 2020, 2021 season, LaMelo Ball won Rookie of the Year over number 1 pick Anthony Edwards, and Tyrese Halliburton finished in 3rd place, if I'm correct on that. I think I haven't looked at the sheet in a while, but I'm pretty sure that's how the voting shook out that year. So year 2, I voted Anthony Edwards having the best season, his sophomore season, with LaMelo Ball sliding down to second place and Halliburton once again finishing in third place. And that brings us to year 3, because right now the voting as I have it, I still have Anthony Edwards finishing first, year 3. Desmond Bane, I have him sliding into second place. As you just saw, Desmond Bane just got paid with that max contract, which speaks to that. And then I have Halliburton again finishing third. So 3 years in a row, Halliburton finishing in third place. Do you have any qualms with what you see on the screen?
I'm a little curious to know Bane over Halliburton. That I feel like Tyrese Halliburton, who is a guy that we're going to talk about in our next segment as well, top 5 point guards in the Eastern Conference. I think with Halliburton's now, obviously, this is Bane is on a winning team, right? He's on the Grizzlies, which finished as a 2 or 3 seed for the second straight year in a row. He is potentially the second or third best player on that team, probably third best player is the way you want to look at it. Tyrese Halliburton shoulders a lot more with a Pacers team that, other than when he was out for those 15-ish games when he was injured, were a little bit frisky. And I think with some of the moves they made in the offseason, looking ahead, they're going to be a very interesting team for the upcoming season. But I'm curious why you would put Bane above Halliburton. That's the only thing I would look at and say I would probably flip it going. Anthony Edwards, I think, is the defined number 1. And then I would have Halliburton at 2, and I would have Bane at 3.
Okay, let me pull up Halliburton's 2023 stats. I think the reason I chose that was because of games played. Yeah, so Halliburton, if we take a look right here, I have it pulled up here. Halliburton averaged 20.7 points, 10.4 assists, 3.7 rebounds. He played in his first All-Star game, but he only played 56 games. And I think Bane, if I'm correct, played almost all 82 this season.
No, he only played 58.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in that case, I must have not looked at Bane's games played. Yeah. I mean, so your thoughts is that
he played 76 in year 2. So maybe you saw year 2 by accident.
Yep.
And he played 76. So it was 58 games for Bane, 56 for Tyrese Halliburton. Yeah, I would flip Halliburton. I think number 1, I think he just has, this isn't about potential. This is about what they did. But I still think, he made his first All-Star team. He, is one of the best players on the current varsity U.S. team that's heading to FIBA. And I think, when you look at this 20, I mean, it's you just don't see the 20 and 10 point guards anymore, especially one that can shoot the ball as efficiently as Tyrese Halliburton. Almost a 50-40-90 guy for the season, 49% from the field, 40% from 3. And then I think he was about 87% from the free throw line. And, the thing is, he's got that funky ass shot, which I don't understand how it works. But I mean, since he's come into the league, he's been a 40% guy. There has not been a single year that he hasn't shot at 40% or above. So it's hard to say that, they'll figure it out, because he seems to be figuring it out just as much with his 3-point shot. And so I think with his ability to create, and I think this is going to be something that is very true for me in a lot of the comparisons we do with other point guards, just his size alone, I think that allows him to be a little bit more dynamic. And I think for me, that's going to be a difference between him and Bane. He's the number 1 guy on his team. Bane can go in and out of being the number 2 to 3 guy. Obviously, when Ja's out, that changes it a bit. And I love Bane. I'm huge on Bane, but I would put Halliburton above Bane.
Okay, and you won me over with that argument. So as a result, Halliburton will finish second in this player of the class competition, jumps LaMelo Ball, who missed most of this past season with that was a foot surgery. And then Desmond Bane finishes in 4th place. And when you look at that draft class, right, that's pretty much what we're seeing. Anthony Edwards is far and away the best player in that draft class. Halliburton and Ball probably right in the same range there. And Bane's probably the 4th best player in that class. And then you got guys like Tyrese Maxey, who are right around the same range as a Desmond Bane, but I think Bane's probably a more complete player. Maxey's been, on the fringes of becoming something real for the Sixers. He's had some real moments for them. His numbers are increasing every single year, but because of James Harden and Embiid and how they kind of dominate a majority of the usage on that team, Maxey hasn't gotten a chance to shine, whereas Bane has. So who knows? At the end of this 3-year competition, Bane is above Maxey, but to your point from earlier, 3 years from now, maybe Maxey is looked back at the as the better player, and that's why we do those NBA redrafts.
Yep, I agree with that. All right, let's go to the next year here, because now we're going to get to this is going to be the 2021, 2022 NBA draft class. Correct.
Yeah. And
Instead,
let's look at how that shook out. Okay. So that was the draft where Cade went 1, Jalen Green went 2, Mobley 3, Barnes 4, Suggs 5, Giddey 6, Kuminga 7, Wagner 8. And that's pretty much the guys that we're talking about at this point, right? So my question to you right now is my current rankings. I have Franz 1 for year 2. So remember, Scotty Barnes finished first, Mobley was second, Cade was third in their actual rookie year. After year 2, I went with Franz 1, Giddey 2, Mobley 3. Initial thoughts when you see that before we look at the stats.
It was so my initial thoughts. I looked at this a little bit before we came on, so I was somewhat aware. My first thoughts were like, I don't know if that's right, and then I thought about it more, and it's a pretty good case because obviously Cade being out is a big part of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Scotty Barnes, who had, based on the hype and winning Rookie of the Year, like had a disappointing year 2. Doesn't mean that, he's out, which is kind of the point of this whole exercise or of this whole award, is that, it's very common for a guy to have an explosive year 1, drop off, and then figure something out in the offseason, come back and still be awesome. We've seen that happen plenty of times. And so looking at this, I was like, I don't know if that can't be right, but I think there's a very good argument that that order is correct. I think with Evan Mobley, I would potentially lean at still putting him at 1.
Okay.
And my only argument for that is that he's already year 2. He's put himself in the defensive player of the year conversation.
Yeah.
So that's one of those awards that you would think you got to at least be, 4 or 5 years into the league, have a reputation, because that's a reputation award, right? That's part of what that award is this guy year in and year out. There's never going to be a guy that just splashes onto the scene, except let's see what happens with Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren this year. Maybe they do something different. But for the most part, there's not a guy for defensive player of the year that comes out of nowhere that you're like, man, he just had a monster year. Got to give this guy defensive player of the year. So for Mobley in year 2 to be in that conversation, I think that means a lot. And I think towards the end of the season, you and I were gushing about some of the improvements he was making on the offensive end, saying that it looks scary. Now, it fell apart in the postseason. In the postseason, Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein just dominated Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. And maybe that's a byproduct of just 2 guys who can't really shoot the ball yet, and they have to figure out what that looks like. And so I think that's a little bit of lingering disappointment for Evan Mobley. But I think when you look at his season as a whole, who he is as a player, and once again, it's hard to say with these guys because they're so young. You think about what they can be, and I know this award is for what they did, definitively. I think I would probably still lean Evan Mobley 1, but then between Franz and Giddey, I have no problem with them 2, 3, and you could probably talk me into whichever order. Josh Giddey, just the fact that, OKC was making a turn towards being competitive, made it to the play-in, won a play-in game. That might sway me a little bit, but obviously he has SGA running by his side, whereas, Franz's, top guy is Paolo, who was the Rookie of the Year. So they're still like a year or 2 behind the progress of where the Thunder are at. So I could be talked into Giddey and Franz in any order, but I think I would go Mobley and then Franz and or Giddey, whichever way you want to put it.
Yeah, I think you're right about Mobley. I was probably a little, prisoner of the moment with how he performed in the playoffs and bumped him down.
It was disappointing. It's hard not to be.
Yeah. Whereas Franz didn't get the opportunity, right? He also Franz plays great against the Celtics. So
this is the magic. This is the Magic bias that we have on this program.
Exactly. So that's probably why
we treat the Magic like they're the 2001 Lakers.
Dude, that was pretty embarrassing what happened against the Magic this season.
Hey, they're in our mid-season tournament, whatever the hell it's called. They're in our group, so that's part of our group play.
Hot take: the Celtics only went after Porzingis so that we could match up with the Magic.
Hey, I mean, we see them coming. You gotta look ahead, right? You gotta look in the crystal ball and see what's the next team that's coming. They could be one of them, so maybe it's a smart move.
Okay, so I agree with you though. I am going to switch out Franz and Mobley here.
While you're updating this, here's another question I'd love to ask you, and I'm putting you on the spot here. Who would you rather have going forward, Franz or Giddey?
It's a great question. I would probably go Giddey.
Ooh,
I'd probably
interesting.
go Giddey.
Tell me why.
Well, he's almost as big as Franz.
Mm-hmm.
I think just like his playmaking as a more natural playmaker than Franz. Like I see Franz like maxing out as a Hedo Turgulu type, and once again, magic to magic comparison there. But I
Magic to
do think
magic, white guy to white guy.
I think they're very, very similar, European to European.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Giddey, he's got this like magic quality about him, not the Orlando Magic, but an actual mystical presence to him on the court where he's a wizard, man. Like the angles that he sees as a playmaker and as a passer, I think that skill is just it's very like what we all thought Ricky Rubio was going to be when he first came into the
I
league,
like that. That's a good
playing
one.
for Spain, but he's even bigger and probably a better shooter than Rubio is. So that's kind of how I see Giddey. Giddey is Rubio 2.0. Once, real quick, shout out to Ricky Rubio taking a leave of absence from basketball to focus on his mental health. Hope he's okay. But I think Giddey has that special pre-ACL injury what Rubio had for the Spanish team. So I'd probably have Giddey over Franz. How about you?
Well, first of all, I just want to get on record here. You're saying Josh Giddey is the next Magic Johnson? That's the Magic you were talking about, right? Yeah, it's verbatim. Okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. I think I like what you just said about Giddey. I think I lean Franz just because Giddey's jump shot makes me a little sketched out, but he brings so many other intangibles that maybe it won't matter because it's sketchy right now. But I mean, he also just in that play-in game dropped 30 plus points and beat the Pelicans. When they challenged, said, "Hey, we don't want SGA to beat us. Someone else beat us." And Giddey said, "Got it, bet." And then went and took over. Franz, I think I like his like the well-roundedness of his game, if you will. I think both of them I need to see a little bit more, and this is also from me needing to watch a little bit more closely, both of them on the defensive end to see who I would lean into. I think just anytime that they have similar qualities and there's a better jump shot involved, usually I'm going to lean on somebody with a better jump shot because I just think that allows you more opportunities to play on the ball, off the ball. You can be a little bit more versatile in what you can do. But I think I'm with you. I think it's super close. I'm very high on both of these guys. I'd lean Franz, but it's not by much.
And so this draft class is coming into their final year of my competition, right? So as it stands right now, with the switches we just made, Mobley would be in first place with 8 earned points, with a second place finish in year 1 and a first place. Actually, no, he has 11 points. Sorry about that. Mobley has 11 points.
Doing some quick calculations here, folks, on the fly.
With a first place finish. So for him to win the competition year 3, he would just need to finish in the top 3 so that he would have, even if he finishes in third place in the third year, he'll have 14 points. So that like Cade has the potential to jump him if he gets first place year 3. And after all the, highlights that we saw with Team USA, if he gets first place year 3, he will have 13 total points. Scotty Barnes not out of the mix because he has 5 earned points right now. And then Giddey has 5 and Franz has 2. So everybody's right there in the mix. And there is a world in which, Cade finishes 1, Barnes finishes 2, and Giddey finishes 3 this year. And Mobley doesn't even make it in the top 3,
Or my guy, Alperen Şengün, pops to the top of this, wins it. And we have maybe, let's say, Franz gets second place and Cade gets third place.
Yeah.
Alperen Şengün is your player of the class.
Or Jalen Green.
This is actually a pretty good draft class when you look at it. Another guy we didn't really talk about, but had a really nice second year that's on that select team, Trey Murphy. I don't think he's going to do it, but Trey Murphy had a really nice second year. Herb Jones, I don't think he's going to be offensively minded enough to do it, but defensively, he's an absolute stud. But yeah, there's some names out there between those guys that we just mentioned that at the very least would have an outside chance of, jumping into that second or third, or even first place seems a bit tough with where Mobley, Barnes, Giddey, Franz, Cade are all trending for someone to completely jump them, but to jump into that 2 or 3 spot, like I certainly think the 2 guys on the Rockets, Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun definitely have a pretty high probability of at least finishing on the podium at the end of next year.
And for everybody that's listening on the pod, I highly suggest going to our YouTube page to watch the actual video, because we have the spreadsheet pulled up. Go back, watch it. Maybe I'll put something in at the beginning of this conversation telling you to go to YouTube, and the magic of editing the podcast. But I think it'll be very helpful for you to see how this is all broken down. And this Rookie of the Year, Paolo Banchero, he will be defending his belt year 2. We don't have to go into that. We can talk about that another day. But this was fun, Will. Thank you for letting me talk about the player of the class competition again.
Hey man, told you, come hell or high water, we're getting this thing off the ground. We're taking it to space. We're taking this thing all the way to the moon here. We're gonna get this thing going. We're gonna find a way. I think I was just thinking about this. We got to find a way to get a voting system, whether that's fans of the podcast, or we can find a way through either our email or through Twitter or Instagram, find a way to get the votes into the hands of the people so that we have a better scoring system. But I like it, dude. It's a fun topic. It's fun to talk about. And it's going to lead us right into our next topic, because we're talking about a lot of guys that we just mentioned. A few of them are going to come up in this next one. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll talk about the top 5 point guards in the Eastern Conference. All right, Greg. So player of the class belt, we've got that tucked away right now. That was a fun segment. Let's jump into top 5 point guards in the Eastern Conference. So this is something fun that we're going to do throughout the rest of the offseason here. We'll start ranking different positions. We'll do some in the Eastern Conference, Western Conference. We're going to be kind of jumping around throughout that, but you'll see that between the two of us, 3-man weave. We'll have Adam in the mix, obviously. So, but we wanted to start with the point guards, because a lot of them we've already talked about today, whether it's through the Team USA camp or it's through the player of the class belt that Greg just went through. So let's start in the Eastern Conference. And for those of you watching here on YouTube, you can see Greg has it pulled up here, a list of all the guys that we consider point guards in the Eastern Conference. There is one guy on this list that you created here, Greg, that I do want to either put an asterisk next to, or just decide if he should be considered a point guard or not. Scotty Barnes. Are we considering him a point guard?
Well, when you look at their roster, are we saying that they're confident with Dennis Schroeder being their starting point guard? That's the only reason why I have Scotty Barnes. Is are they really going to turn the keys to Dennis Schroeder and say, okay, man, you are a starting point guard? Or are they going to kind of be like, hey, this is a little bit of a rebuilding year for us, or a reimagination year for us. Let's give all the keys to Scotty and let him actually run point. That's why I have Scotty on there. I do think Schroeder is probably the person that I would put. Same thing where you see Jaden Ivey / Cade Cunningham. I think Jaden Ivey is probably going to be their point guard, but when you see Cade and what he's doing with Team USA, he functions so well as a primary playmaker. It might make more sense for the Pistons to have Cade. So that's why I have both of those guys on there, because I'm not really sure whether we can classify them as point guards.
The Pistons ones to me makes more sense, because that's one where I thought about it as well. Like they're both kind of point guards, right? It's going to be a nominal decision as to who's the point guard or not. You know, with the Toronto one, because I think if you're doing it the way that you just like I agree with you, they shouldn't feel great about Dennis Schroeder as like, yeah, that's our guy, that's our option there. We're rolling. Let's go. We the North. But then if you're doing it this way, then you might as well put a slash in for Pascal Siakam as well, right? Because I think he's going to handle the ball just as much, you know, as a primary ball handler. That's but fair. So I think for this discussion, without it getting too murky, I think we should remove Scotty Barnes, go with Dennis Schroeder for now, knowing that, you know, if we're really talking about who's the primary, I mean, this is like if we get to the Western Conference, you know, and we're talking about the Nuggets, like, yes, Jokic is really the point guard, but we're going to put Jamal Murray and we're going to put Jokic with the center.
Well, I'll do you one even better. Neither of these guys are making the top 5 list, so we can just go ahead.
Let's go ahead and cross them off. That's what we're gonna do here live. So let's go ahead and cross off Toronto. Thanks for playing, but you're done. So let's go through. Let's just get rid of some of the ones that we know are clearly.
How do I do the strike through?
5. This is a fun little game here. I believe if you go to format and then text.
Okay. Command Shift X. Okay. Command Shift X, everybody, on a Mac device. Command Shift X is the way that you do a strike through. All right.
Man, the podcast numbers are going to be booming after this one. Okay, so we got rid of them. Next up, let's go back and forth as to who we think we're going to get rid of here. So I'll go next. I think the next obvious name for us to cross off here is Kyle Lowry in Miami.
Okay. And obviously Miami's going after Dame Lillard.
Yeah,
So
that would completely change this. We'll redo this segment if and when that happens.
Yeah, so we get rid of Kyle Lowry. I'm cool with that. Next guy I want to get rid of is a favorite of the pod, but definitely not a top 5 point guard in the East. That is newly minted Washington Wizard Tyus Jones. Tyus Jones is going to get the X here. He's going to get the Command Shift X.
Hey, if this was top 5 backup point guards in the East and he was a backup still, he'd be very high on that list. Very, very high. Next up, let's just get Ben Simmons out of here. We who knows? But we can't do anything with him. Can't win with him. Can't do it. Can't win with him. All right, who else are you taking off here?
I'm gonna go with,
because now it's starting to get a little bit tougher.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Markelle Fultz. Although Markelle Fultz is a great story and he's turned his career around to some degree, he's definitely not in the conversation for a top 5 point guard in the Eastern Conference yet. I am excited to see what he does for the Magic this year, what their plans are for him, whether or not he becomes trade fodder or if they actually decide to build around him, because they drafted Anthony Black, who's in the very similar mold to Markelle Fultz. So I'm going to give Markelle the Command Shift X, and we will move on to your pick.
Yeah, I said it was getting interesting. There's still a few more obvious ones to get rid of here. You took out my guy, Tyus Jones. I'm going to take out your guy, Alex Caruso here. Caruso, great. He ain't making top 5, though.
Yeah, and is he still on the Bulls? I didn't do any research on that. I thought
he's still on the Bulls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You got me double checking now, but I'm 99% sure he's still on the Bulls. Yeah, he's on the Bulls. We're good.
Okay. Get rid of Caruso. So now what's left? We have Trae Young, Derek White, LaMelo Ball, Darius Garland, Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham, Tyrese Halliburton, Drew Holiday, Jalen Brunson, and James Harden.
So I'm going to jump in here for a second. I think the final definitive cut to me is Jaden Ivey. And if you take out Jaden Ivey, the list that I wrote down of people who I was going to have to kind of filter through, this is the list. I still had Cade. Cade was still someone. Listen, actually, let's talk about Cade real quick. Okay. I think we can cross Cade out because he's still coming back from injury. But on my own personal notes, I put in the 5th spot 3 guys that I wanted to talk through with you, and then I put this will be Cade's spot. Like if Cade comes back healthy and if he's playing the way that we're hearing it reported, like I think Cade will be that guy sooner rather than later. But I think for right now, it would be really hard for us to make a really genuine case that he's the 5th best point guard in the Eastern Conference right now.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But if this list is who do we think is going to be the top 5 point guards, and that's a different conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that'd be really hard to make, given that he's played 1 year and then got hurt basically his whole sophomore year. It's still a hard case to make when there's a lot of talented guys here.
Okay, Cade, next year you'll be on this list.
I think
maybe by Christmas, Cade will be on this list.
Yeah, there's a good chance of that.
All right. So is it my turn to eliminate somebody?
Yeah. So now I think, at least for me, we're at the territory now where we're getting down to, I think we have about 7 or 8 guys left here. So we're starting to get on the precipice of that top 5. So let me give you the 3 guys that I had listed as who I think we're going to fall into that 5 spot. And if there's someone else that you think needs to be crossed off before them or needs to join that conversation, let me know. But
how about we decide who cannot get crossed off?
Who cannot get crossed off? Okay, let's do it that way then. So who cannot get crossed off? For me, I think there's, and this is tough because a lot of these guys in the Eastern Conference, they all kind of live in the same tier, right? There's a lot of guys that live in the same neighborhood. But I think for me, the 4 guys that I'm not crossing off are Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Brunson, Darius Garland, and Drew Holiday. Those are the big 4 for me that I had on mine that were, even if you want to rearrange the order, and that wasn't even necessarily a strict order that I just gave them in, but if you wanted to rearrange the order, maybe one of those guys ends up being 5th, I think they have to be in the top 5.
Can you repeat those?
Yeah, Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Brunson, Darius Garland, Drew Holiday.
Interesting. So I agree on Drew Holiday. I'm not quite there on Darius Garland, though I love Darius Garland. You're willing to say that you'd rather have Darius Garland than James Harden?
Yes.
Really?
Dude, I don't trust James Harden. I don't trust him, the way that he's aging and mentally. Like, I just don't trust him. I'd rather have Darius Garland. Like, I don't, and I think Darius Garland, I mean, make the case for why you'd rather have James Harden at this point in time.
Just like the playoffs this year, like Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell.
Notoriously bad in the playoffs. James Harden had 2 good games. He did have 2 good games in that Celtics series, but then had a bunch of choke games in that series as well.
What did Darius Garland do?
I'll give you that. So this is one point that I put down here is literally next to Darius Garland. My question with him was what went wrong in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But in my estimation, because the year before without Donovan Mitchell, they fell apart when Jared Allen got hurt, right? Mm-hmm. And then they made it to the play-in game, and he did all he could in that play-in game. He scored 40 plus points, went as toe-to-toe as he could with KD and Kyrie before they ended up winning that game, becoming the 7th seed, playing the Celtics. From what I watched in that Cavs and Knicks series, which a lot of those games did line up with Celtics games, so I didn't watch all of them start to front to back, but what I did see in that series, one of the biggest issues was Darius Garland didn't have the ball enough. And you look at a lot of his stats, his offensive output from his shooting, points per game, all of those pretty much lined up with what he did in the regular season. His assist and turnovers were the biggest difference. He had a lower amount of assists and a higher amount of turnovers. But I think part of that was they almost, and this was what I didn't really understand. The Cavs were just a massive, we talked about this a little bit with Evan Mobley and how disappointing that really kind of like altered our feelings on him for player of the year belt. With Darius Garland, like it felt like they almost made Donovan Mitchell the point guard instead of Darius Garland the point guard in the playoffs. And I think that's the wrong way to go. So I think it was an incorrect approach more than it is that there's something wrong with Darius Garland. Because I think there was a few moments in that Knicks series where I think it was either game 3 or game 4 where he ran off about 18 minutes straight of just domination, and then they just didn't give him the ball back. And I couldn't understand why they didn't stick with that. So I think Darius Garland was more misused than it was an issue with him.
I can't believe I'm making the case for James Harden.
I can't either. I thought you love Darius Garland. I thought you were
love Darius
totally
Garland, and I cannot stand James Harden, but I think it's a year too soon to say that Darius Garland is definitively a better player than James Harden. I think maybe 2 years from now, I'll be ready to make that call. But
let me ask you this.
I would still say James Harden's a better player in that I would probably 28 out of 30 teams would rather have James Harden than Darius Garland for 1 year for this season.
If you're Joel Embiid, who would you rather have for this year? James Harden or Darius Garland as your point guard?
James Harden.
I think that's wrong.
Okay, we disagree on that. Let's put a pin on Harden and Garland for now. Okay. Let's talk about Trae Young, Derek White, LaMelo Ball.
Real quick. So Halliburton, Holiday, and Brunson, you agree have to be in the top 5, right?
Have to be in the top 5. I'm not saying those.
We can argue the order, but those have to be in the. Okay, cool. Cool. We got those 3 set aside.
Okay. Derek White. Okay, I think he's probably the easiest cut here between Trae Young and LaMelo Ball. If we're saying who do we want as our starting point guard, like to build around, I think he's the easiest cut here. If you're like, who do we want a starting point guard that is a supporting piece for other guys? Derek White is probably the top of that list, right? They're just very different
context
types of players.
Context matters. And honestly, you can throw Trae Young in this conversation too with LaMelo Ball, because I think from a talent perspective, Trae and LaMelo would be, who's the most talented? Like both of them would probably have to be solidified top 5 guys, right? Mm-hmm. But I think both of us feel like, man, if I'm building a team around Trae or LaMelo, I don't really love that idea. Like, I'm not in love with that idea. And certainly with Derek White, you wouldn't be in love with that idea either. And then if to your point, if you're saying, hey, which of these guys would you want to be your, let's say your third or fourth best player on your team and play a role, like Derek White's like perfect for that, right?
Mhm.
LaMelo, Trey, maybe they're good in that role. Maybe that's one level too low for them. Maybe they actually need to be your number. Like neither of us think they're a number one, but I certainly think they could be your number two. You know what I mean? So I'm with you. I think Derek White is more in a role player type, so he has to go for this conversation.
Okay.
But obviously, we love Derek White in the show, so no
Yeah.
shade at my bald brethren.
Okay, so what about Garland, Ball, and Young? Last year, right, one of my hot takes was that by the end of the season, everybody would realize that Darius Garland is a better player than Trae Young, right? I said that at before last season. I still believe that's true, especially when you think about the context conversation and building a team. Like, I think Darius Garland can be a really big part of a team, or he could kind of fit a little bit more into the background and just kind of run the show and not have it be all about me. It's not all about
Yeah,
Darius Garland. He's more of a traditional point guard, setting everybody up and being okay with that role. But I do think he
he's
could
more
thrive
malleable
even more.
going kind of either way, right?
Yeah. So that's why I would probably have Garland over Young. I still feel like Garland's a better player. LaMelo Ball, it's just like a lot of empty calories with him, right? So my next cut, if we're talking Young, Ball, Garland, Harden, I would rather cut LaMelo Ball before we cut James Harden or Trae Young.
Get the scissors out.
Okay.
Cut him. What was it? Command. Well, just so we make sure our audience is aware.
Command Shift X, and this is on a
Boom.
Mac.
Command Shift X on the Mac, baby. He's gone. So that leaves us with. So we have three guys that we know are going to be in the top five. So we've got James Harden, Darius Garland, Trae Young. We got to cut one, and then we can start forming what the top five looks like. I know who my vote is. Do you know who your vote is to cut?
Oh man, this is tough for me, man. Yeah, I know who my vote is. All right. On 3, 1, 2, 3, Trae Young.
Trae Young.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it is what it is. Like, listen, I understand Trae is so talented. Like, I can't, him off the ball and then him obviously defensively just does so little for me that it just can't do it. Even though I've seen him go off like he did in that comeback in, what was it, game 5 in the Garden, where he basically came back and turned into Ice Trae. And I get it, man, but I just can't get there with him. I can't get it.
Okay. Right. Yeah. So our top 5. So we ended up having James Harden in the top 5.
Yep.
So it's really just about ranking now. So we have Garland, Halliburton, Holiday, Brunson, and Harden. All right. We got to rank them. I would say,
must be done.
If I had to pick, I would go at number 5, Drew Holiday.
Okay. I think I can get down with that. So this is where on my personal list here, and I kind of had a loose ranking, but I didn't really feel committed to the ranking that I had there. So I wanted to kind of just talk it through. Drew Holiday and James Harden is my kind of 4 or 5 that I think that I'm looking at. And I'm cool with going Drew Holiday at the 5. I think obviously his defense is, as long as he's healthy, his defense is going to be there. And that's going to be, he's the best defender out of this group, far and away. Like, it's not even close. But we've seen it for even in their championship run, we've seen it for 3 straight postseasons where his ability on the offensive end, the more you make him do, the more he kind of becomes a little bit of a liability. When it's, all right, Drew, like, listen, this isn't like, you can't just sit there and take, 10 shots. We're going to make you take 20, 22 shots in this game. And he struggles when he has to be able to be that guy, which I think all of the other 4 guys, if they were forced into that position, would be able to do a lot better. And despite how good his defense is, I think it really hurts that Bucks team when he can't be super consistent with scoring the basketball, and he's not the playmaker that any of these other guys are. And so I think that's where it hurts him enough. And he's a little bit older than these guys. So, well, he's about the same age. Him and Harden are both older than the other 3 that we're looking at here. But that's why I think they're at 4 and 5 for me. So Holiday at 5, I think I'm cool with. And then that would, for me, put James Harden at 4. But depends on how you feel.
No, I'm cool with that, man. I think Drew Holiday, like, a lot of us having him in the top 5 here is based off of his track record on the defensive end. As you said, he's like the best possible version of Marcus Smart, right? That's what Drew
we've
Holiday
said a lot
is
over the last couple of years.
Yeah. So I'm cool having him in the top 5 and at number 5. If I have to make a concession between Garland and Harden in the 3-4 spot, I'm cool having Harden at 4. I just thought we were going to leave Harden out of the top 5 initially, and I was like, that's insane.
No.
So yeah,
I
Harden
wasn't
at
there.
4 is cool with me. Garland then
That makes
being,
him 3.
being 3. So that leaves Halliburton versus Brunson. Who is the best point guard?
Which
In the
wait,
Eastern
you just fucking giggled. Isn't it funny? Like we're like it even sounds like it's very real, but it sounds a little ridiculous that we're saying who's the best point guard in the entire conference between Halliburton and Jalen Brunson, right?
Just makes you realize like all the great point guards are out west.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like we don't have SGA, we don't have Ja, we don't have Steph, we don't have Luka. You know, whether you want to Jokic or Murray, Dame yet, yeah. So it feels a little, and these guys are good, but it is levels to this when you look at Eastern Conference point guards versus Western Conference, and we have to cross off a lot of really good names to even get to where we are right now with these two. And so, all right, Brunson versus Halliburton. This is a tough one, right? Because I think part of me wants to go Jalen Brunson, and a lot of that is just intangibles. It's kind of subjective. I'm just like, he just feels like that dude. He just feels like, that's a dude that you can look at the postseason. You can look at his last 2 postseasons, even when you take him back to playing with Luka. And, you were talking about, I forget who it was, but it had like a certain like Darius Garland has a certain, fluidity to his game where Jalen Brunson can take over. Jalen Brunson can feed Julius Randle and spot up. Jalen Brunson can kind of be a few different things. And, we've seen him do it in Dallas off of Luka. We've seen him do it as the main guy in New York. And so I think there's a part of me that wants to go Jalen Brunson, number 1, because him and Halliburton have similar shooting splits. Jalen Brunson can get his shot, can score the ball a little bit better. Halliburton's going to be a better creator. And I think maybe Halliburton I might like a little bit more long-term, but I think right now I'd probably go Brunson. And part of like a Halliburton more is just that, he's so long that even if he's not a great defender, that length is going to be an asset. Whereas, we just saw, we saw Brunson get beat off the dribble by Payton Pritchard and taken to the cup. Like I love my guy PP, but I'm just saying, that's not exactly who you're probably going to be facing in the Eastern Conference Finals or in the finals if you ever get there. But I think for today, we're recording this on August 6th. I would go probably Jalen Brunson 1, Tyrese Halliburton 2. If you want to make a case the other way, certainly willing to listen.
No, I think I would agree, man. Jalen Brunson is about to turn 27 at the end of the month. So he's like entering the first years of his prime. Halliburton, I believe, is 23. Yeah, so he turned 23 in February. So he's still three years away from his prime. So I think Jalen Brunson right now, especially with just like his ability to dominate a game with like just his IQ.
Yeah.
Like he's just so freaking smart and he's so good running pick and roll and getting to his spots. Like you just can't stop that guy. When we saw him live, man, that was so frustrating seeing the Knicks versus Celtics where we just couldn't stop Jalen Brunson. Like he got to every single spot he wanted to on the court. I think Marcus was out that game, if I remember correctly.
I can't remember.
I think he was out for that game. But Brunson was unbelievable.
Well, that's our future. There's no Marcus Smart now. So, you're looking at Malcolm Brogdon and Derek White. That's the responsibility when you go up against the Knicks who beat the Celtics 3-1 in the regular season last year. That is the task at hand is how do you stop Jalen Brunson? He's thick, not quick, but he finds a way to get that shot off in the lane. He finds a way to make it happen. So I think I'm good with this list, with this top 5 here, Greg. So to recap, we've got Jalen Brunson, we've got Tyrese Halliburton, Darius Garland, James Harden, and Drew Holiday. Those are your top 5 Eastern Conference point guards.
And that's all we got for you guys. We're going to move the vibe check to the next pod, right?
Yeah, we'll move it along. We'll make sure we get Adam in the mix here for the next one. So we've gone about an hour on this one, or just under here. So this is a fun podcast, man.
Getting an hour out of a summer pod.
I love it, man. These are fun. Hope you guys enjoyed this as well. As always, we appreciate y'all for joining us here. Make sure you are following along and subscribing to us on YouTube. We're doing a lot more content over there. We got Green with Envy quick hits that are coming at you. Throughout the week, we'll have some more of those updates. When any rumors drop, we'll hop on, do 10 to 15 minutes, make sure we get y'all filled in with that. And then, of course, make sure you're following Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is that you may listen. Make sure that you follow along. Shout us a review, shout us a rating on there. We really appreciate it. It makes a world of difference for us to be able to create more content. So we appreciate y'all. Hope y'all have a great rest of the week or rest of the day when you're listening to this. Greg, any final thoughts? And then let us know what we're going to hear on the way out.
Push the agenda of the player of the class belt. If you like the pod, I want to see you retweet. I can send you the Google Drive link so that you can make your own copy and fill out the spreadsheet however you want. If you have any suggestions for how to improve it, I'll listen. I feel like I've given this a lot of thought, though, so I probably won't take your suggestions unless I feel like they truly improve it. But right now, I do feel like the player of the class belt has been a success. Will, my friend, thank you for letting me do that.
Send your suggestions, but he rules with an iron fist. Be aware.
And with that, we are going to play you out with a new release that will be releasing on Friday, August 11th. So all the listeners of the pod, you're getting a sneak peek into a new Black Sheep Optimus release. This one is called Get This High, and it releases on August 11th. So be on the lookout. Peace, everybody.
Let's go. Peace, y'all.